Another round of let's take it to the tape. Here we got Tony, who's one of the amateur throwers in the games, and this is the heavyweight for distance, and he makes a lot of the same errors you see a lot of the amateur guys do, who are a little less mobile and don't have the throwing background. I mean, you can see even from as soon as he starts winding it, there's a lot of arm that's got everything going. I really prefer as that weight starts moving back and in front of you that you dip the hips, and you can tell that his hips just stay at one level all the way from he starts winding. I assume that that's probably what's going to happen for the rest of the throw. Moving your hips up and down, you can actually accelerate the ball without needing to use your shoulders. And feeling that connection is really where you're going to start figuring out how to apply force to it to drive it out into the sector. As he starts going, you can tell the first thing he does here, the ball is still over here toward 3 o'clock instead of it needing to be kind of more this way before you start casting in, before you start turning. That way you can kind of toss it out in front of you, and as you land, you can tell as his other foot gets down, instead of the ball being back at 9 o'clock, here it's already probably somewhere in between 7 and 6. So there's also no pause here where he's going to push the weight back to create that ellipsis. He just goes straight with the head, pulling it around. This is where I talk about the difference in pulling and pushing. With something that's 56 pounds, you can't really afford to drag that implement around. Also, here, this is the most important part of the throw. When you catch here, that weight's got to get driven back and down to a low point and then accelerated hard with the legs, pushing that right knee in and driving off of this leg. It should be a big loaded lunge to accelerate and get some distance and put a linear drive on the implement. You see here his hips pretty much stay even, so the legs really aren't applying a whole lot. It's pretty much two turns, two very even turns, and then a big rip and a yell. Whereas you see a lot of the better guys will cover a lot more ground. Typically whenever I land for my first turn, I really do a pretty good job of planting my back foot almost on top of that line, and then when I land for the finish, my left foot is all the way against the trig. So my first turn I'm stopping here, and then the second turn I'm covering all this ground. And that's where that big linear drive gets, that you can accelerate the weight up and out again. His finish is actually pretty good. That's different than the last two videos we've seen, mostly just due to Tony's a bigger guy, so he's got a little bit more mass that he can fight the implement.